It does appear that OPEC Plus with Russia is in the driver's seat right now. The Biden administration here coming out and saying, we're calling OPEC, we're asking them. They're basically putting the finger on OPEC despite U.S. production being down. How do you ultimately see it all being played out?
I mean, look, the pressure on OPEC Plus is going to continue to grow from the U.S., given where prices are. There is, of course, a lot of concern about gasoline prices at the pump. But the reality is that, this isn't, OPEC has very clearly laid out the roadmap. They are going to be bringing on 400,000 barrels per day every single month. Of course, OPEC Plus also don't want very high prices very quickly because it will damage demand ultimately. However, there are a lot of uncertainties, right? What happens in the winter? Do we get COVID flare-ups again? And that's why they have been cautious. If pressure mounts and if prices stay high, like say Brent in the 80s, sure, I think OPEC can look into tweaking the deal come the November meeting or in the December one. They could add more than 400 in 1 month and pause the next month. Those options are always on the table. But it isn't just on OPEC why prices are high. The reality is that demand is rising very quickly. And broadly, not about oil, but more broadly, we just haven't kept up with investment because of just generally policymakers' focus on transition.
I mean, that's it. You just nailed it kind of at the end. It's happening in Europe right now, and we are seeing it. And we understand that the so-called green transition is happening, but we cannot lose sight of the fact that as that happens, there also has to be adequate supplies of power in the real world that we are in. And we're starting to hear European politicians come out and basically saying, well, this is the price of the transition, and we're just going to have to deal with it. I'm not sure if people in Europe and the UK are going to exactly feel the same way. How long do you think, Amrita, this power crunch with natural gas and even coal, believe it or not, might last? Is it a multi-week story? Is it a multi-month story, a multi-year story?
I'd go with years because for the simple reason, right? Of course, we've got more renewables, we've got more let's say wind and solar generation, but we've retired a lot more coal plants, right? And like you mentioned, people have been writing the obituary for coal for 10 years now, and look at where coal prices are. The fundamental problem is energy demand is rising, and it will continue to grow as population grows and income levels grow. Sure, the growth is being led by emerging markets, but this is a global world which is interconnected. So if you've retired a lot of coal plants before demand has come off and we don't have enough renewables to fill the gap, of course you're going to get high energy prices. And sure, gas prices we think next year will come off from the current levels, but we think it will be structurally a lot higher than what we've seen in the past. This is a structural story. There is one truth about the green transition, that it is extremely inflationary. To your point, I'm not sure consumers necessarily understand that till now. And I think I'd love to see what the reaction is about the trade-offs that people will have to make going forward.